All right, so we left you with this question. If Ohtani was doing this in the American League, and let's just assume that the Dodgers become an American League team, because Don brought up a good point. If the Angels, it was Don or Pete, I'm sorry. If the Angels, they'd be out of it. So you'd pick the guy that was on the team in first place. So let's say it's the Dodgers, and they're in first place in the AL West, and the Yankees are in first place in the AL East, and both players had the same year. Who would be the MVP? Well, I mean, advanced statistics are very important in baseball right now, and Don brought this up. Aaron Judge's WAR is 9.9. Lindor's is 6.6. Bobby Witt is 9.1. Ohtani is 7.8.
Crazy,
OPS plus. OPS plus, Don. Judge is 218. That means he's more than twice as good as the average player, plus another 18%. Lindor, 136. Witt, 172. Ohtani, 181. 181. And finally, let's look at OPS. 1.142 for Judge, 985 for Witt, 1.005 for Ohtani. And I don't know if you guys look at this as a tiebreaker. If Ohtani wasn't pitching, how do you not impact your vote by the fact that Judge plays in the outfield? And Ohtani simply is a DH. And I don't take anything away from DHs. But I always say that if it's close, you got to give it to the guy who actually plays the field. And that's why Lindor, to me, is closer to Ohtani than he should be, because Lindor's an extraordinary shortstop, but I think Ohtani is still the MVP in the National League. But if they were in the same league together, I think Judge is the MVP.
It's interesting because, because that's always the argument. I think there's never been a DH. I know Don Baylor won it, but he also played some in the field. There's never been a full-time DH to win the MVP. So it's definitely a thing that playing defense matters. And he's not just playing defense, he's playing defense at an elite level. That always gets brought up. But what doesn't get brought up, and they were just showing it on Yes, what does it mean to have 51 stolen bases to Judge's 10? It shows you that they're different players. I get that, but you 51 stolen bases, the 50 for 50, I think makes it close. I still think Judge would win it. But I think what makes it close is the 50-50, the 50 stolen bases. It's crazy, Michael. It's just these are crazy numbers. And if they're both winning their division, what hurts Lindor is, even though the WARs are somewhat similar and he plays defense, is that the Dodgers are running away with their division. The Mets are, haven't even clinched a playoff berth yet. And now I think with Lindor out, that pretty much locks it up for Ohtani for sure. But if both teams are winning the division, one plays defense, but one's stealing bases at an incredible clip, does that make it closer? Does that balance it out? Does Judge's defense against no defense for Ohtani completely swallow up having 41 more stolen bases?
It's just that the nature of the stats of Ohtani's stats jump off the page so much. The Judge stats are incredible, but it's not even his best season.
And you know what's incredible, too, Peter, is Ohtani might pass Judge in home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, Judge is at 53, Ohtani's at 51. I mean, it could be tonight.
That's incredible. The seasons that are happening here. And also, I can also explain away the stolen bases by the fact that would he have 51 stolen bases if they didn't change the rules? It's a lot easier to steal bases, Michael. And it became a thing. So, I mean, I didn't watch the game last night. I saw the highlights. I mean, the Marlins, he went up against position players, I think, his last two at-bats. The Marlins are god-awful. They're going to lose 100 games. And, I'm sure he compiled a lot of these stolen bases because 50-50 became a thing. I don't want to take anything away from Ohtani's stolen bases, Michael, but how much of those stolen bases contributed to their wins and how much was, hey, I want to make 50-50, I think I'm going to steal bases?
Well, he is very savvy when it comes to, baseball history. I mean, he's really immersed in it. And I think that he probably went into the season thinking, okay, I'm not going to pitch, so I don't have to save my legs. And I think that 50-50 was probably on his mind. Yeah. And I think the 50 stolen bases for him is easy because he's such an extraordinary athlete. But hitting 50 home runs, that's not easy. You can't just say, I'm going to hit 50 home runs. He did it.
And also, it's not like Judge can't steal bases. He's stolen 10. I mean, I guess if he wanted to, he could steal more. I don't know if he could steal 50. But if Judge wanted to, I think he probably could steal more bases. How many times has he been thrown out?
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah, he's on base constantly. So.
I don't think it would be smart for him to steal bases because he's got to play the outfield too.
Right. I mean, that's part of it. You know, would Ohtani be stealing so many bases if he pitched? You said no. Would Ohtani steal as many bases if he was an outfielder? So it's a fun conversation, though. It is. But I think Judge would probably get it. But then you wonder, just from a voting standpoint, there's always been a New York bias with these things. We can give you a laundry list in all sports of New York athletes that do not get MVPs for whatever reason. And on top of the fact that everybody just seems to be drunk over Ohtani. So you wonder if it was up to a vote, Michael, what the voters would do.
You know what? A guy who has a vote in these things, Buster Olney, is going to join us in a couple of minutes, and we'll ask him what his vote would be. But first, Don wants to tell you about Mazda.
Welcome.